Oh, yeah, yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our regular scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting for April 18th at 7 p.m. These are some of our favorite nights when we get to have a room full of people and a room full of kids here tonight, so it's an exciting time. I call our meeting to order. I've asked Mayor Pro Tem Smith to lead us in our invocation tonight and Police Chief Medina to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for the opportunity we have once again to come together as a board, as a group of citizens, as town officials, to have discussions about the things that affect our community. Father, it's an exciting night here in our building tonight to have so many of our community's young people here with us. And Lord, we can feel the excitement in the air, and we're excited to see them because these young people represent the future for our community. And we're just so proud of them and glad they're here tonight. Pray that you'll bless each one of them and help them to realize tonight is a special night and that their community is proud of them. But Lord, I pray now you'll go with us as we delve into the business of the town. Pray you'll give us wisdom as we discuss the issues. And Lord, I pray above all that everything that's said and done here tonight will be pleasing in your sight. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
You can face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Love it.
It's exciting. I saw the grin. Good on say it.
That was an excellent job, girls. Very good job. First on our agenda tonight, we have our meeting protocol. I ask Town Manager Mitchell to review the meeting protocol for public participation as it relates to tonight's meeting. Good evening, Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and board members. Seems like just yesterday we spent 4 hours together, so we'll do it again tonight. Our board meeting is both in person and live streamed on the town's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Tonight's meeting contains a public comment period and one scheduled public hearing. The public is invited to comment in person. When it is the appropriate time, Mayor Massengale will call on those wishing to address the town board. All attendees that have appeared in person to address the town board during the public comment period should provide your name and address on the registration sheet by the podium prior to the public comment period beginning. We ask all those wishing to address the town board either during the public comment period or a scheduled public hearing to begin their comments by clearly stating their name and address for the public record. The public is asked to keep all comments to 3 minutes so that all that wish to speak can be heard in a timely manner. To be respectful of those that may have different views on matters addressed by the town board, we ask all in attendance to respect the decorum of the meeting by refraining from clapping, making loud noises, and generally showing support or displeasure for comments made during the public comment period or public hearing. Police Chief Medina will be asked to escort from the boardroom anyone not respecting this process, and it is the discretion of the mayor as presiding officer of the meeting as to whether or not to continue the public comment or public hearing period if the meeting protocol is not followed. This concludes tonight's meeting protocol.
Thank you, Adam. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the April 3rd, 2023 regular scheduled board meeting. Any changes or additions to the minutes? If not, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 3rd, 2023 Town Board of Commissioners regular scheduled meeting.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. First presentation we have tonight, item 4A, Statewide Athletics Committee State Champions, All-Star Basketball, 8U Girls and 10U Girls. More information about this item will be presented by myself and Parks Recreation Marketing and Special Events Coordinator Trey Baggett. Trey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. We come together again tonight to recognize yet another two more state championship teams. The first one that I would like to talk to you about is our 8U girls team. They traveled down to Rocky Mount in February to play for the SWAC 8U Girls Basketball State Championship. Little about them, they went undefeated throughout their tournament and had no losses on the tournament as a whole, and they did a great job and showed great sportsmanship. So I'm going to call you ladies up by name. If you can just come up and stand right up here for me. First, we have Miss London Williams. Miss Harper Rigsby. Miss Andrea Mangum. Miss Paisley Weathersby. Miss Ella Kate Smith. Miss Emmeline Smith. Miss Selena Oliveira. Miss Anna Chapman. Miss Olivia Center. Miss Haley Ellis, not here tonight. Miss Alana Stokes. And Miss Andrea Tay. And the coaches for this team were the head coach, Miss Amber Williams, and her assistant coach, Mr. Terrence Stokes.
First of all, parents, get anywhere you want to take pictures of your kids up here, grandkids, any of them. Feel free to move all around and take anywhere you want to for any of these kids right here. We are so proud of you girls. 8U and undefeated from Fuquay-Varina. That is incredible. And so, and this plaque right here says, Statewide Athletics Committee State Tournament Girls 8 and Under Basketball 2023 Champions. So we've got you backpacks tonight and pencils tonight, so you're ready to have fun in school and keep on playing sports. So congratulations. We'll all get together and we'll do a picture.
My phone keeps. Take two. Okay.
Smile! Champion! Woo! I'm so proud of you.
Somebody will text you one. Or I'll get it. You get off our social media. There you go.
Congratulations, girls. Congratulations.
Next up, Mr. Mayor, we have our 10U girls team. A little bit about this team. They traveled to Wendell, North Carolina. And as you get older, things get a little tougher in life. So they learned to come back from adversity. They lost their first game of the tournament and then won 7 straight to win the state championship. So a good life lesson.
Congratulations, girls. Straight way winning those games right here. Trey, would you like to call the names? We'll bring them on up.
Yes, sir. The first we have Miss Marissa Smith. Next we have Miss Harper Malenichik. Miss Juliana Capola. Miss Angelina Lyles. Miss Jade Kirshner. Miss Caroline Daniel. Miss Adrienne Norby. Miss Bree Brooks. Miss Jonelle Baldwin. Miss Kenzie Baker. And Miss Sophia Locklear. The 10U girls head coach was Mr. Scott Baker and his son Chris Baker.
Congratulations, girls. I tell you what, that's pretty neat right here. State tournament, girls 10 and under, basketball, 2023 champions. And y'all worked hard on that, and you went and played your hearts out and did so great. So we're so proud of you in Fuquay-Varina. It's incredible to have a state champion team here tonight. So congratulations. You're doing a great job. Let's have you back here again next year. Coaches, thank y'all for your time. Thank you for helping with these kids right here. Girls, we look forward to seeing all of y'all back here again next year at this time, so keep up the good work. We're proud of you. Folks, we do have some other items on our agenda. If you would please try to be quiet as you exit the room. Thank y'all for coming tonight. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is another presentation. Item 4B, Blueprint to Dismantle Systemic Racism Report and Initiative of a Better Wake. More information about this agenda item will be provided by Wake County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director Danya Perry, Communication Director Weiss. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce Danya Perry. As Wake County's first Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director, Danya Perry leads Wake County's efforts to advocate for access, equity, inclusion, and diversity through innovative policies, programs, and services. Tonight, Danya is here to present a Better Wake Blueprint, a living document comprising more than 40 goals and 150 near-term action items that organizations can take to address systemic racism. Crystal Carmichael is here with him. That's his colleague, and he's going to tell you a little bit about her as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much, Susan. Mr. Mayor, Board, Mr. Manager, really appreciate the opportunity to come talk a little bit of the work that we are aspiring to get deeper into. First of all, I didn't know I would be competing with state champions, so I kind of feel like that was
a tough night.
That's a setup for sure, and I didn't know I needed to start recruiting for my beloved Wolf Pack. So I need to do this really quick and then run out there and see if I can get them signed. But really excited about having this conversation that we have been burgeoning on. The Office of DEI has been in place now for a little over a year. The conversation I want to have today, we've started this discourse, and I think nationally we've had this conversation, and there were three names that were intertwined from February to May 2020. And it was the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. Those three names sparked the conversation. It sparked an interest and also a rejuvenation of a conversation that had been long-standing with our community. In May of 2020, community leaders, at the time I was with the Raleigh Chamber working with our CEO, Adrian Cole, along with corporate leaders, public institutions, colleges, universities, all got together thinking, as we were all having these conversations and wrestling with the idea of what can we do to address the issue around race equity. And so with that, we got together and we launched this awareness campaign called A Better Wake. A Better Wake was put together simply about how do we increase our fluency and start to have honest conversations about probably one of the most toughest conversations to have, which is about race. And the reason why it's so tough to talk about it is because we don't practice it. We understand that it's complex, has a lot of history and trauma associated, especially with the lived realities of some of our brown and black brothers and sisters. And so having this conversation, we launched this website and this initiative, and this was in partnership with the county, again, other organizations, other companies, all saying that what we want to do is rally behind this commitment, this statement that really will be our true north in this work. And this was our charge and our commitment that, we acknowledge that there's a high quality of life in the region for many, but for those who have been historically underserved, underrepresented, and marginalized, there's a different reality altogether. That reality is rooted in systemic racism. It has permeated the justice system, created monumental education, health, and wealth disparities between black and brown and white Americans, and resulted in discriminatory practices. This moment is the culmination of such injustice. And so with that conversation and creating this belief statement that could be our true north for the work, we asked for community members and organizations to go to A Better Wake and to sign up, to learn and to educate and to advance the conversation around race equity, and not to be shy to talk about race, regardless of how uncomfortable it is. That led us to, again, creating this website, which became a rallying point and a linchpin of information for us to share across the county. Additionally, what we knew is that with the creation of that website and creating awareness, we had to also do something around strategy. We wanted to take that statement and move it to a strategy, and so we solicited RTI, a third-party evaluator, to come in and help put together what we at the time called a 10-year blueprint to dismantle systemic racism. We wanted to take this overarching commitment that we all had and this desire as different community members to come together and identify 4 focus areas that would really help us strategize to move towards success. And for us, we understood, and the purpose not just because, when we think about addressing race equity and having these conversations, we stand on the intersection of 1, it's the right thing to do, but 2, it's also good for business. It's also good for our community. It's good for all that we are about when we talk about inclusive prosperity. And not addressing systemic racism has cost the U.S. economy up to $16 trillion over the past 20 years. So the impetus over this work, we decided to focus on 4 main areas. We've seen disparities within criminal justice, health equity, education equity, and also economic mobility. When we pulled together with this collective led by RTI, we pulled together working groups in 4 distinct areas, and we solicited subject matter experts to help us identify and prioritize recommendations and strategies that would help us move forward. Part of this for us, we acknowledge that while we typically look at certainly the challenges and the disparities between black and brown individuals, but we wanted to do a systems analysis. We all inherited what we are using today. We inherited the systems that we are a part of. And so what we wanted to do is to have a conversation about how do we reimagine these systems and infrastructures. So a lot of the work really focused in on the systems level. But we also wanted to make sure that the work was locally centered. We acknowledge that there are some work on the state and federal level that we may not have direct influence over, but we can certainly advocate. But there are some things that we can certainly do right here within our community that we do have locus of control. And then lastly, looking at the strategies that we can do that can be actionable immediately. With that, one of the things that we wanted to do with the county when we launched the Office of DEI was to anchor this work and make sure that it could sustain long term. And that was to launch the Division of Race Equity, in which we were able to hire Crystal Carmichael, who I'm going to invite to kind of talk about the next steps.
Thank you so much, Mr. Perry, and thank you for inviting us here to the board. Moving forward, I started this work really impressed with the intentionality that was put into the blueprint, understanding what has been taking place regarding the systems that have put our black and brown sisters and brothers at a disadvantage. And I loved the fact that our community, the experts of the community in these 4 areas that Mr. Perry mentioned came together to really acknowledge and have the conversation, that courageous conversation that allowed us to come up with those 40 goals and those 150 tasks. So I understand that there is complexity, there's a lot of discomfort in having the conversation, but I also understand that it's almost unrealistic to believe that we can continue to operate with these same systems and expect for our community to see the prosperity that we expect. So we want to address the systemic inequities that impact our community, and the blueprint is the way that we are, that's what's guiding our work in doing that. So since I have started this work, we have gone across the county to meet with all of the municipalities, the town managers, and talk about what we're doing with the blueprint. We understand that it may be a little uncomfortable to have this conversation, but what's easy is acting like this systemic inequity does not exist. What's easy is to brush this conversation under the rug and just continue business as usual. But what's difficult is to stand on your own and say, look, I realize that this is an issue, let's do something about it. It's not easy, but it's a simple fact. We have to do something about it. So our current race equity efforts in our community, one, we have a One Water Summit where we are trying to address the fact that we need clean water for the next 50 years. So even for our most disadvantaged communities, we want to make sure that they have clean water as well. We are doing these town halls across the county to make sure that everyone has access to learn the information about what's actually happening in Wake County, and we've strategically placed them across the county so everyone has equal access to come and listen to the actual facts, the data, the information that is included in the blueprint. So we want to create an equitable and inclusive environment for all. We will continue the town halls. We had our first one in Apex on, I think it was 2 weeks ago. We have our next one coming up in Nightdale on the 27th. We have one on May 9th, and that one will be focused on education. And then we have one on May 30th, and we'll be focused on criminal justice. So in those town halls, we're talking about all of the data that was collected over the 2 years that the blueprint was established. And we want to have the information presented from the experts in those fields so that people have a good understanding of what this means for you and I and for everyone in our community. At those town halls, we are asking for people to register for an action committee, and that allows people to get more involved to do the work that's outlined in the blueprint. And then the last phase of our work on the blueprint is just the understanding that we know that DEI became a hot topic when during the pandemic when we witnessed those murders. But this is a unique opportunity for us because there were several organizations, several people asking, what can we do? The blueprint lays out a foundation for what we actually can do, what we can implement in our community. And we don't want this to just be a here today, gone tomorrow effort. And so after the implementation phase, we're actually going to have an analysis phase where we look at what's actually happening as a result of the implementation phase. We want to understand what the gaps are, where there are resources needed, and what needs to happen in order to get those communities those resources. So I also want you all to understand that this has to be a community effort. And in doing so, in making sure that this is a community effort, there are so many organizations that have rallied around us to say, yes, we support this work. And so just as I said earlier, it's easy to not have this conversation. But at some point, we do have to understand the simple fact that systemic racism does exist. And if we don't do something to address it, we are going to watch our Black and brown citizens be disadvantaged. And if that's not what we want, then we have to be a part of this rallying around this blueprint to make some level of change. And so these are a list of organizations that have already rallied around us to support us, and we hope that we can gain your support as well.
We'd love to open it up to questions that you all have. I'm not sure if we went over our 15 minutes. Okay.
Well, thank y'all for coming here tonight. I do believe that in Fuquay-Varina, especially this board, supports an inclusive environment and does not want anybody to be treated unfairly. You're exactly right, as you talked about here. And I think this board has worked hard from its internal standpoint of policies and with hiring practices here with the town of Fuquay-Varina. And so it is something that this board takes serious too. Does any other board members have any comments or questions?
I just have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Harris, go ahead.
I know the efforts of the action committees. Would you talk about benchmarks as far as how you could assess any movement toward change? Are there identified benchmarks that you have created or developed with this program?
You want to? Absolutely. You can actually go to abetterwake.com, and we have a dashboard that we're serving as a tool to make sure that we're actually moving the needle. And that's abetterwake.com, the website. The dashboard that we created looks at data specifically for each one of those focus areas. So from the school to prison pipeline for criminal justice to the wealth inequities with economic mobility. Now, one of the things that we want to do is to continue to look at some aspirational measures, but the ones that we have currently on the website, they serve as proxies for us to be able to determine if we are indeed making a difference.
Okay, so you get feedback from participants or feedback just based on people going to the dashboard and inputting data and information?
Yeah, well, we have, let me back up. Okay. So the data that we created and that we curated was from the initial work of RTI. And we identified both national, state, and local data that we wanted to follow. And then with the action committees, what we'll do is update that data on probably annually, because some of the data is certainly not going to be changed overnight. So it's certainly going to be long-term, but that's going to be our true north. And these work groups and action committees will be a big part of how do we change some of those numbers.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I'm sorry for the misclarity.
No, perfectly fine.
Okay.
Perfectly fine. Well, I understand you have a challenge because one of the things that when you have a conversation like this is it's good to have a conversation, but a benchmark to have identified progress or measurement is often the biggest challenge because of what people's expectation are around having a conversation about race. Oftentimes it's measured in how people identify their own trauma and
Yes.
how they relate to their own trauma.
Yes.
Or how sometimes people don't even want to bring that up in regards to the challenges around equity.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have a big challenge to have a continued conversation about equity, particularly in this political environment where you have the issue of critical race theory, where people don't necessarily believe that systemic racism exists.
Mm-hmm.
So, I commend you on your work and your challenge, and I hope that in the future that you may be able to come to our community to have a conversation about what you're doing as far as dismantling systemic racism.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Mr.
I'd
Mayor,
also,
Commissioner Haynes, you?
I guess he kind of, Commissioner Harris led into, so will there be, what do we need to do to make sure we can have this conversation here in the town of Fuquay-Varina? Is it space we need to have or anything, just let us know. What do we need?
Thank y'all. Thank you. Thank y'all very much.
All right, thank you.
for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate you very much. Next presentation, item 4C, presentation in regards to U5751 North Carolina 55 Extension Alternatives. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Engineering Director Folling and Raymond Hayes. Matt, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, fellow commissioners. So the purpose of this agenda item is to inform the town board of the impacts and functional operations of all three alternatives proposed for the U5751 project. Now, I believe during your town board retreat, you guys were showing a presentation with, I guess, out any staff recommendations. The reason for that is because we didn't have all of it, the impacts, the summary of the impacts, the traffic analysis, the models. But since then, we have received that data, we have analyzed it, and we actually hired Benish Consulting to go and look at the traffic analysis, look at the data, the synchro models, and tell us what alternative is going to be the best for us, or at least show us the pros and cons of it. You know, how do they function? Does any one function greater than the other one? And so with that, Raymond is here to kind of show the impacts of the different alternatives that we have for the 5751 project. So.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Raymond Hayes. I work with Alfred Benish and Company. We're based out of Cary, and we were acquired by Mr. Polling to review the NCDOT's traffic analysis and traffic report that they presented at numerous public meetings for the U5751 project, which is going to be we'll say the Northeast Judd NC 55 bypass from existing 5542 around to Judd Parkway. This is a brief summary of the project itself regarding what the department's calling the NC 55 extension. As I stated, it's going to go from East Fuquay at the 5542 intersection northeast around. This information came from the report that the department procured from their engineering firm and the public meeting websites. As you can see, the information here. There's some general information regarding timeline and schedules on the left and project funding on the right that the department is pursuing currently. I believe they've started that last year. Was that the case? Yes. Moving forward with the traffic forecast, what this is telling you is based on the report that it was done in 2018 and completed in 2019. We're currently in 2023. The report, based on what you see here on the traffic counts from 2018, is telling you the volume of average daily traffic along the 4 routes identified. The 2045 is an estimated traffic projection that the department does when they do a normal traffic analysis to say, okay, we have this amount today, we anticipate that amount in the future, and we need to make sure that our proposal and design is adequate to address those conditions and that volume of traffic in the future. Excuse me. Also part of the analysis is an environmental study that they do. Very broad. It just says, let's go look at the environmental features. Are we going to impact any streams, wetlands, historical properties, any other situations that we need to look at? Is there going to be a noise issue potentially? And this just gives you some of that information. The numbered sequencing you see down towards the bottom quarter of the page there, the 2, 3, 1, regarding alternatives 1, 2, and 3, were the rankings that the department gave to each of the 3 alternatives, which I'll get to in a second, as to what they feel is the number 1 choice, the number 2 choice, and the number 3 choice. This is based on the department's recommendation from public meetings. This information came from public input that identifies which were the preferred routes regarding 3, 2, and 1. Moving on, the map you see here is a conceptual drawing identifying the general route of the proposed alternates. Alternate 1 is identified in orange. Alternate 2 is the slightly green curve you see about middle way between the orange and purple, and the purple route is identified as alternate 3. The section that we were asked to evaluate and analyze is just the component regarding the area around Sunset Lake Road. That's where the variability of the project is going to occur. The rest of the projects to the east and west are pretty much the same for all 3 alternates, so there's really not much to look at there. Based on the area of focus, like I said, we're going to be looking around the Sunset Lake Road intersections. You can see that alternate 1 is the orange route, as the northern route, alternate 2 is the green route, and alternate 3 is the purple route, which runs along existing Products Road. It will provide a slight extension of Products Road towards the east through the concrete plant. This is a close-up of alternate 1 just around the Products Road area, and you can see that it does cross on top of the Curran property, and it does come just south of an orange property you see towards the top edge of the page. That's a state historical identified property, so the project will need to stay off of that property because of its historical nature. Alternate 2, once again, is this one basically moves to the south side of the Curran property. It ties in roughly at the same location as the alternate 1. As you can see there, the intersection location to the north is approximately the same, and where it deviates from 401 is approximately the same also. Alternate 3 takes a drastic move to the south. You can see it makes a hard turn towards the west, comes across the Products Road and through the north end of the Old Castle property, and then it continues down Products Road to the west of Sunset Lake Road, and then ties back into existing Judd Parkway on the west end of the map you see here. This is an image. This was a synchro model that we ran. Don't worry about the movement on it. What this was showing was that on alternate 3, when it was running, is that it would create a traffic backup that would at least get down to 401, but would not extend beyond 401. So I just wanted, that was in there. Part of the information we found out during the initial evaluation of the report provided by the department was that there were some inconsistencies with some of the information, so we met with the department, asked their engineering firm to reevaluate the project, the one analysis at Sunset Lake Road, and what they did is within that reanalysis, they said, okay, let's add a second left turn lane on eastbound NC 55 to turn north onto northbound Sunset Lake Road. By doing that slight modification, that eliminated a lot of the traffic issues that the previous model was showing. And now what happens with the reevaluation area is that intersection at Products Road and New 55 bypass operates within an acceptable level during peak hour. Based on Benish's evaluation and the department's evaluation of some of the alternatives modifications that we pointed out, at this point, all 3 alternates operate at an acceptable level. There's no condition that creates a significant backup. The initial concern with alternate 3 is that it's so far south from where the proposed other 2 alternates are going to be, is that traffic was going to back up to 401 and actually across 401, which would then impact traffic on 401 being able to turn onto northbound Products or Sunset Lake Road. That issue got eliminated, so that doesn't become an issue any longer, and that signal is allowed to operate at an acceptable level during rush hour in this area, which is, it says for peak hour, but y'all's rush hour is usually around a 3-hour time frame most days. A couple other issues is, like I said initially, the forecast was done in 2018 and the report was completed in 2019. So we're getting close to 5 years old on this data. As most of y'all know and have seen, Fuquay-Varina has grown at an exceptional rate in the last 5 years. And so a lot of the projections of traffic that were done 5 years ago don't need to be guesses any longer. They can do new traffic analyses to evaluate how effective is this project going to be and how effective are the alternates going to be. The department plans to do that. They will do that at a point in time when they get closer to construction to make sure that their construction is valid with the proposals and recommendations in the report. But this is a good guesstimate right now. And the department recognizes that they're hitting their 5-year limit is their limit on traffic analyses. And once they get to 5 years, they want to run a new one anyway. So they recognize that and they know it needs to be done. They don't want to do it right now because it would slow the project down and delay it. So that's kind of why they're still going with this report that they have. Here's the pros and cons that we came up with when we reviewed the report. Alternates 1 and 2, they're basically the same. One's to the north side of the current property, one's to the south. Really not a big deal between the two. Where it says the largely acceptable traffic operations, the traffic along this corridor is anticipated to basically run at capacity. It's not going to be a huge backup. It's going to be an average backup. Now, no backup's acceptable to anybody who's trying to get somewhere, and we know that. But everything's going to operate within an acceptable level. So there's no concerns there with that anymore. Alternates 1 and 2 move traffic farther north, which moves it farther away from 401. So that adds capacity to Sunset Lake Road in case it needs it in the future due to any future development that may occur and likely will occur in Fuquay. And the big issue with alternates 1 and 2 is they don't impact Products Road. Right now, Products Road on the short section that's built there's not a lot there right now. It's a lot of undeveloped commercial property. So there's no impact to Products Road, and I'll bring that up in alternate 3 when I discuss that. But it just stays away from Products Road, and we know Products Road is a good area for commercial development that is ready to go as soon as it can. Some of the cons, when you look at them, is there's more environmental impacts. Those can be mitigated. That's not a deal breaker. Those aren't. They're just being identified. That's all that's doing. It's not saying this is going to shut the project down or anything. Alternate 1 does impact the current property. So does alternate 2. The one geometric issue, alignment issue with alternate 2 is it creates a skew let me go back. It creates a skew on the east side of the intersection, and that's not the best alignment situation for traffic movement to move through the intersection efficiently. That's the only geometric drawback that we could see with that location. Excuse me while I plow forward. Alternate 3, there were some issues with alternate 3. One, well, the pros is that it's on Products Road. So the right-of-way impact along that roadway is going to be minimal compared to the new location of alternates 1 and 2. Those are going to be new location. Every piece of property that they go across is going to be a full impact on those by the roadway. Alternate 3 was the preferred public route because it didn't impact properties to the north on new location. It was on Products Road. There will be some impacts on Products Road because Products Road, if it's utilized, will have to be widened to a 4 or 6 lane divided facility. Right now, I believe it's roughly 2-way-ish. The cons with alternate 3 is it's farther south. The intersection with Sunset Lake Road is farther south, so you get less distance between that intersection and 401 and the rail crossing. So that's could be an issue if traffic gets heavier in the future than anticipated. The other issue is that alternate 3 will turn Products Road into a multi-lane divided facility. So there will be no left turns coming off of any parcel on Products Road. There will be no left turns turning into any parcels on Products Road. Anybody who chooses to move in and develop on Products Road will have to turn right out of their property, go down through 1 or 2 intersections and do a U-turn through one of the designated U-turn bulbs. And anybody wishing to turn in will have to go past Products Road, past Sunset Lake Road, do a U-turn and then come back. that will greatly impact any developer's incentive to move into that location along Products Road and put a business out there, because it will severely impact their customers' abilities to ingress and egress the property. And part of the analysis when they did the traffic evaluation is they said Products Road has an amount of traffic on it today. Now, when they reroute NC 55 through Products Road, we recognize NC 55 bypass as basically a bypass. It's to bypass traffic coming from the south side of 55 highway, south of John Deere, to just bypass through Fuquay to go north on 55. It's a bypass route to move traffic efficiently around Fuquay. By putting it on Products Road, you're going to be adding all of that bypass traffic onto a road that's already congested with Products Road traffic. They will have nowhere else to go. That is their route to go. So there will be a heavy volume of traffic for that Products Road area, just based on what the numbers say. And that's what we've determined. Oops, went too far. So if anyone has any questions, I will try and answer as best I can. I can't speak for the department because
Mr. Hayes, I appreciate
Yes,
you being
sir.
here. Matt, appreciate you as always. I can make some questions and comments in regards to some of the information that you've just shared with us here. When you talk about Smith Farms, that's something we've heard about residents over there, and you mentioned on the previous slide, least amount of residents. I think this view right here, one of these views you had previously, I was counting them. It looked like one alternative had 4 and the other one had 6 houses impacted. So when we're talking about least, we're talking about 4 versus 6. Is that?
That is correct. And so this, when you start acquiring right-of-way, it's around the 60% plans. This is about a 15% plan. And so you really don't know where, the final alignments are going to be. Just from looking at the plans, it's about 6 for alternative 1 and 4 for alternative 3. However, you do have impacts to the Old Castle property with alternative 3. And so it's kind of an exchange of 2 houses for impacts to the Old Castle property.
And I imagine Old Castle, being a commercial concrete manufacturing facility, is going to be quite expensive from a right-of-way acquisition. But, I assume it's also a fair comment to say whatever route's chosen, especially if, actually any route's chosen, that DOT is going to look to try to shift this off of property owners, commercial or residential, the best that they can within this study and what you're talking about, because less developed property is obviously less expensive than that. Now, you can't go outside of this study area, but if there's a way to save a house right there, that's what you're saying. It's not designed yet, but intention would be to try to avoid a house. So
Right.
commercial, try to avoid around that.
Correct. So just understand that the alternates you see here are, like Matt said, they're a very early concept
Kind of
of
spray paint
where it's
cans
going
across
to
the
be.
map.
So the corridor is shown is going to be significantly wider than what it eventually turns into. So
Okay.
they identified a parcel as an impact, but when they get down to the details of the design, they may be able to shrink that impact and right-of-way into a space that has significantly less impact than what's shown. But the corridor here is, like the mayor said, it's going to be a wide area that looks at as much space as they can get away with looking at to see where the road can best fit within that area.
Well, and when you talk about updating traffic numbers, I understand that it doesn't get done until closer down the road on that. But I think that's humongous, because when you start talking about 2014, then into 19 numbers and looking at growth we've had, then 540 traffic bringing in. And I know these models taking to some of these new roads, but then Harnett County's growth, what they've had, our drive-through traffic. I think some of your slides earlier showed only 25% traffic increase in 20 years. And I think that's showing you the old numbers involved with that. We have so much more traffic coming through here. And so to go to, you mentioned Products Road intersection right here. I'll be interested when these new numbers calculates the data, because that Products Road intersection is already a problem today. And if we're going to 20 years from now, or 10 years from now, 10, 20 years from now, add a ton more cars, and it's already a massive problem today, I can only imagine how much worse that would be on data in regards to that intersection backing up. And
Yes.
that's, if I understood, that's what you said?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned commercial corridor. We have discussed as this board, and from probably one of the number one, next to traffic, The number two concern from our citizens is more commercial opportunities in our town right here. And what you're telling me is multiple left turn onlys makes these commercial properties, what's left of them, because most of it will be taken away, what's left of them will become very undesirable for commercial businesses that we're trying to relocate here.
That, yes, they're going to be, to take Products Road to I believe it's a 4-lane divided, but then you're gonna have sidewalk and curb and gutter. So it's gonna be a significantly wider roadway section through there. It's gonna impact those properties significantly. And if you look at the image on screen here, you'll see that anybody that is on Products Road that wants to turn and go west on the bypass will have to go down through Sunset Lake Road and then go to the U-turn bulb you can see over there towards the east.
Cause that to back up that much more.
And so you're gonna have a lot of traffic they're probably gonna try and do a U-turn at Sunset Lake, and it's just gonna,
It's gonna be a mess.
tight.
It's already a mess, and what you're telling me is it may very well create more of a mess. And so I think, first of all, I would like to see any way that we can minimize impacts to any property owners through there. I think that's a comment that any one of these board members, anybody would agree with. Let's try to minimize people's properties that are impacted. But I think it's very important to come up with those that new data that's ran, and I think that really makes a difference in the amount of growth. Because 2014 numbers, as I stated earlier, is nearly 10 years, that's 9 years old at this point, and that traffic data is so outdated. We got a lot, and back then it was a problematic intersection, but nothing like it is today. And so that's only 9 years later, let alone another 15 years from now.
And what it's gonna do by putting the road, like, if you go with alternates 1 and 2, it leaves Products Road as it is, as a full access to all the properties. It also leaves it as a cut-through, so for traffic to use in case there's
Interconnectivity that we do.
in case congestion comes up in other places, they can still get through. This option takes away any of that opportunity now. So you are forced to go through there, and everybody is forced to. There's no alternate interconnected routes that allows traffic to distribute around more evenly for people who need to go where they need to go. Everybody's gonna have to sit through it and get there eventually.
Well, as we say, traffic congestion being a major number one problem in Fuquay-Varina, we want to address, and $100 million project is no small project to get done. And so we want to make sure it's done right in the most impactful way that's going to last the longest.
And alternates 1 and 2, based on my engineering decision, are the better routes for the intent of the road, to move traffic efficiently and quickly around the Fuquay-Varina city center, instead of routing them down 401 the way they have to go now and sit through Sunset Lake and Judd and Purfoy and all those intersections. It moves them efficiently around so they can go where they need to go and be gone and not create a lot of congestion. Alternate 3, like I said, that's your only route. You got no other options to go anywhere to get around unless you stay on 401 as everyone does now, and that defeats the whole purpose of the bypass.
Any other board members have questions or comments?
Well, just, for everybody to realize that I'm a Realtor, and the old way we used to do this when, DOT could preserve corridors that they thought might be three options for moving traffic around somewhere. We can't do that anymore, and that didn't work well either.
No.
And it tied up people's land and what they could do with their land forever, sometimes decades. So that wasn't a good way to do it. But this, we want to minimize the involvement with people's property, but this way development has taken place, and it is people's property that has to be crossed to find these corridors now. So it's just a very difficult choice for everybody to make. And we just have to realize that it didn't just happen, that this is here all of a sudden, that we used to do it a different way, and that didn't work either.
And you're correct. Things aren't the way they used to be. But the thing to think about too is when this route gets built, all of those parcels that are along that route are going to become very sought after for whatever development can move in there between commercial, residential, mixed use, everything. So they become a lot more viable now because there's a good way in and a good way out, and it gets there. Mr. Poling realized that when he built Northwest Judd. The developers were out there as faster than we could finish the road. I think there were 3 subdivisions, encroachments that came in before the road even got opened. So if you build it, they will come. So you're right, it's gonna impact someone's property, but someone else will want to buy it and give them a lot of money to put a lot of houses or commercial property on it.
I had a sale in Smith Farms just a few months ago and gave them all the maps. We put out all the maps and it sold well. It went, I mean, people appreciated the information and then they made their choice, and it didn't particularly impact them, but they were on stone lines, so they were kind of in between the 2 cul-de-sacs that could be impacted by one, either Plan 1 or Plan 3. It's just a difficult choice.
It is, but significant.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
Well, I did want to just confirm one thing,
Go
because
ahead.
somebody
I'm sorry,
told me about
Commissioner.
this today, and that is that all of these alternatives avoid the historic Johnson Farm.
Correct. It may, like I said, in this image, it may show a small, the corridor itself may show it touching or impacting it, but once, like I said, as they get closer to the real design, it's gonna bring that corridor in and likely move off of that property. But right now, the corridor is gonna be significantly larger than is going to be necessary once they go there. But yes, it's probably gonna show a small impact, but that's likely to fix itself as they move into the details of design.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
Yeah, I just had a question.
Mr. Harris?
Yes, sir.
And I think this would be the alternative that would extend Products Road if it were to go
Yes, sir.
travel east.
Yes.
There were some, I guess these are traffic designs as you go east, how can I describe what I'm talking about here? Crossing Sunset, where you would have, it looks like there are loops or something. Are these traffic patterns or something?
Those are for doing U-turns.
U-turn.
Those are for so a normal sized car will probably be able to do a U-turn at Products Road. It will not be the best preferred thing to do, but people are gonna do what they wanna do. If you've driven NC 55 through Holly Springs, you'll see they've gone and put all those U-turns around, so
Yes.
everything's a right turn. You go down a little ways and you do a U-turn and come back.
Yes.
That's the same thing here. The reason these are so large is because they need to be able to accommodate truck traffic, tractor trailers. Because this is gonna be the bypass route now.
Okay.
It needs to support large truck movements and things like that need to do that.
Okay. Now, the other question, do you see that kind of design along commercial corridors or not? Is it?
This is what you would call a super street style design, and the likelihood is that depending on how Products Road gets designed, they may eliminate like a left turn movement from Sunset Lake Road left onto northbound Sunset Lake left onto westbound bypass or Products Road. They may eliminate that movement like they've done on 55 through Holly Springs, where everybody turns right, you go down to the turnaround, and you do a U-turn and come back. What that does is that allows the signal to operate more efficiently because you're eliminating a complete signal movement, and it's a safety issue because you're eliminating a conflict movement with cross traffic and left turning traffic.
Okay.
So that may be where they end up. They probably just showed this to have all the different options in there to say, we're gonna need a bulb out down here for U-turns. There may be a different style of intersection at Products Road and Sunset Lake if they build the bypass along there. So it may be something similar to some of the intersections you see on 55 in Holly Springs, that style.
Okay, so part of this design does focus on moving traffic where, I guess the concern, if this backlog of traffic there, with this design is encouraged to minimize that kind of backlog of traffic
Correct.
because of constant movement and flowing.
Correct.
I know when I look at Holly Springs, that's what you
Yeah,
see.
people don't like that, it's called a redirected left turn, where you turn
Redirect.
right and then do a U-turn, but
Mhm.
time-wise, it's just as fast as sitting at an intersection and waiting for the full light to cycle to turn left. There's no time difference. It's probably a savings in time, honestly,
Okay,
to turn right and do a U-turn.
all right.
And any one of these three alternatives would
Thank
use
you.
that kind of bulb that Commissioner Harris is talking about, correct?
They
Possibly, you don't know.
I believe alternates 1 and 2, when they ran the traffic model, did have that
Yeah, I see him right there in your
that
picture.
alignment shown at the Products Road intersection. I believe that's how the traffic model was set up, and it ran exceptionally well. I mean, there was almost no backup at all, because everybody's able to keep moving, and there's really nothing to stop you. So it does run exceptionally well. People don't like it, but, you know, it works well.
We'll let the professionals figure out that design.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate your time here
Thank you for your time.
tonight. Thank you
Thank
very much.
you.
Very, very informative, Matt. Thank you for bringing
Very
Raymond in tonight.
informative. Thank you very much.
All right, item D, 4D, final presentation, proclamation in regards to Arbor Day and events. More information about this agenda item will be presented by myself and Assistant Parks and Recreation Director Newsom. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council. How's everyone tonight?
All right, how are you?
I'm good. So I'm here today to help move forward our Tree City USA, and one of our standards that we have to hit is we have to have a proclamation, Arbor Day proclamation. And also one of the things that we do, we are going to be hosting an event at South Park on April 28th at 4 o'clock. We're going to be out by the basketball courts, and we're going to be planting 2 trees. And myself and some other staff are going to be teaching the public the proper way to plant trees. It's not just as easy as digging a hole and making sure that the green side's up. So that's part of what we're going to be doing. And we also would like to thank our sponsor. We got Stevenson's Nursery out of Willow Springs, who's going to be donating some trees as well that we're going to be giving away at the event. So look forward to seeing everybody there at 4 o'clock on April 28th.
Where Fleming Park?
At South Park.
South Park.
We'll be planting these trees out by the basketball court, so it's going to provide it's kind of that big field out there, so it gives us a little bit of shade for the basketball court, a little bit of natural shade, and it also kind of breaks up the field and the basketball court out there as well.
What time did you say, 4?
Yes, sir.
Thank you right here. In the proclamation that we discussed, I have, staff has helped me put together right here. I'm going to read that right here in regards to that, and we can continue down the process of getting our certification. It's something this board made a priority a year ago, making a Arbor Day and being able to be a tree city. So thank you for your hard
Thank
work
you.
in regards to that. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton of Nebraska proposed Arbor Day as a secular day of observance to recognize the importance of tree planting and preservation, an initiative later endorsed by every U.S. state, including North Carolina in 1967. Whereas planting and preserving trees is good business, providing a renewable resource for countless wood products, and increases residential property values, enhances the economic vitality of business areas, and beautifies our community. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of precious topsoil by wind and water, moderate the temperature, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. Whereas trees filter out harmful particulate matter and other pollutants common in the urban or suburban areas, including rapidly growing areas such as southern Wake County, North Carolina. And whereas trees shade our houses from the sun, provide insulation, and create windbreaks, keeping heating and cooling costs during the extreme temperatures of summer and winter low. Whereas trees are a major factor in carbon sequestration, and carbon dioxide is a major contributor to global warming that trees put to good use rather than causing harm in the atmosphere. Whereas research shows that trees planted in the city make people happier, reducing stress levels, crime rates, and recovery time for medical patients. And whereas preserving our town's character and identity, as well as its quality of life, are 2 of the 6 core values of the Town of Fuquay-Varina's strategic plan. And whereas the land development ordinance for the Town of Fuquay-Varina supports green infrastructure throughout the town through multiple standards and requirements, including street trees and thoroughfare buffers along all roads, addition of landscape buffers between different land uses and development types, the preservation of existing vegetation to meet landscape requirements, the conservation of both sensitive environmental corridors and valuable heritage trees. And whereas the town of Fuquay-Varina is hosting an Arbor Day event on April 28th, 2023 at South Park to celebrate Arbor Day. Now therefore, I, Blake Massingham, Mayor of the town of Fuquay-Varina, do hereby proclaim April 28th, 2023 as Arbor Day in Fuquay-Varina and commend this observance to all people. We look forward to April 28th.
Thank you,
You'll
Mayor.
be promoting out the time for everybody in the public coming out there. I heard Larry ask you, what time did you say that was again?
We will be out there at 4 o'clock, starting at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock
That
for the
Friday
public on
afternoon.
April 28th.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is the public comment period. At this time, the town clerk will call on individuals that are in attendance and have registered to address the town board prior to the meeting. Public comment period is a time for the public to address the town board about any matter that is not the subject of a public hearing. Those speaking are asked to begin by clearly stating your name and address for the public record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes in order that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. Rose, do you have anybody signed up?
There are none.
There are none. Okay. Thank you. Next on our agenda is item 6A, items tabled from previous meetings. Item 6A, abandonment of public right-of-way, resolution ordering the close of a portion of Ideal Lane, SC-2023-01. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Planning Director Davison. Pam, good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
Yes, ma'am.
We do have one, she signed on the wrong sheet, maybe? Okay,
Okay, Pam, let's just rewind back a minute. Okay, whose name do we have? Is that in regard to our public hearings later? Is that a public comment? Okay.
Liz Thorley?
Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Thawley, and I live at 227 Ballantyne Street.
Welcome.
I wanted to talk about sidewalks. My family moved to downtown Fuquay-Varina so we could walk to our favorite coffee shop and all the restaurants. The problem is, one of the roads that we walk on most often is Anger Road. And I'm sure, as you all know, Anger Road does not have a sidewalk. And I walk on Anger Road daily. And when I walk, or when I'm sitting on my front porch, because I live almost on the corner of Ballantyne and Anger Road, I can see two seniors with their dogs and a young couple who push a stroller and walk their dogs on a daily basis along Anger, and the young couple walks along Anger and then turns off onto Ballantyne. So there are pedestrians on Anger Road. And I, as well as the seniors, I've talked with them, we have a difficult time with our balance, and so we need to be able to walk on the road. It's hard to walk on the grass. And so when we're walking on the road, we try very hard to not walk on the road when the cars are coming, but you can't always jump off the road right away. So my point is, and I'm sorry, I talked with families of young kids, and they've also expressed their concern about there not being sidewalks because their kids can't walk on Anger Road in a safe way. And so my question for the board is there a plan to put a sidewalk in on Anger Road? Why can we not have a sidewalk put in on Anger Road? And I'm talking about Anger Road where it comes off, if I remember correctly, it's the parking lot where the Mexican restaurant is, and it curves around and heads out towards Judd Parkway. That is, I believe, part of town. And so I was just curious to know what the plans were.
This isn't a question and answer period, ma'am, but let me tell you that we have an extensive sidewalk plan, multiple sidewalks getting ready to get installed. Matt Poling, our Director of Engineering, is who I'm going to recommend you get with at the end of, he'll get with you
Okay.
in a moment.
All right.
And share with you sidewalk plans, how sidewalks get built and where they are.
Well, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. He's seen you and we'll get with you. Rose, do you have anybody else?
Rich Barta?
That's for public hearing.
David Proctor?
David, good evening.
Hey, good evening.
Welcome. How you doing?
Good. I came tonight to get some information.
What's your address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
David Proctor, 7200 Sunset Lake Road, Fuquay. And I just come to get some information tonight, and I guess I just wanted to be an advocate for our farm, which consists of 75 acres, and there's 100 acres. And the route doesn't go through the 75 acres, but it goes through the 100-acre part on the backside. And right now it's a forest. You know, we are growing trees back there, you know, trying to be good stewards of the land. And just wanted to, you know, let y'all know that that property has been like it is for since the 1700s. And change is tough for me, but I understand where y'all have a tough decision to make. But I also want y'all to know that, you know, think about the environment, you know, think about the open spaces. You know, 1 and 2 cuts into 2 farms, one on my side and then one on the other side. And, you know, once you do that, you can't stop it. It's, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. Probably get developed more and more, and before you know it's gone. So right now, you know, we've kind of held fast, you know, not developing it. But, you know, I just want y'all to take that into consideration, you know. And, you know, Products Road is just a small, you know, short road. And you're going to open up, you know, other parts of Product Road that can become commercial. So, you know, I understand what you're saying, but just, you know, I just want you to, you know, think about it, you know, because, you know, once you destroy the streams and the forest, it's hard to get them back. And we, you know, we're doing all we can, you know, to keep it that way. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you coming. You got a beautiful home place over there, too.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Rose, do you have anybody else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Pamela, we're now going to switch to item 6A, items tabled from previous meetings. Abandonment of public right-of-way resolution ordering the close of a portion of Ideal Lane. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Planning Director Davidson. Pam, good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official records of the town. As presented at the April 3rd Town Board meeting and continued to this evening, the petitioner, FV Retail LLC, is requesting to close approximately 980 feet of the Ideal Lane right-of-way from the Norfolk Southern Railroad right-of-way to the intersection of North Main Street as part of the Gold Leaf Crossing Shopping Center project. Permanently abandoning the right-of-way will improve the site's viability for future development. Since the April 3rd meeting, staff have verified the communication and coordination between the shopping center developers, current property owners, and other property users. That's exactly where it is on the map. The motion tonight is to adopt the resolution ordering the closure of a portion of Ideal Lane, approximately 985 linear feet, from its dead end at the Norfolk Southern Railroad to right-of-way reserved for the future Wallace Adcock Boulevard as presented and recommended. I'm available to answer any additional questions.
Thank you. This is a continuation of a public hearing previously. We left the public hearing open. I'll ask for anyone to speak in regards to it. Thank you, Director Davison. The hearing is continued open from the previous time. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the voluntary annexation petition? Mr. Barta? Hold on. It is, and I don't have one. I'm using another. I'm using different ones. You want me to say something different?
Instead of the voluntary annexation petition, the actual abandonment of the public right.
Abandonment of public right-of-way. I don't have one.
But you are correct about the public hearing being continued.
Okay. All right.
Okay, my name is Rich Barta, B-A-R-T-A, and I'm with Core Properties. We're the development company for the Gold Leaf Crossing project, which is, you've heard about probably, but it's underway and still behind the curtain. It's about to come out, so I think it'll be exciting for everybody. We are, the developer have been actively involved in all aspects of that property, and we are in the process of getting it ready for development. Part of that process is the closure of Ideal Lane and the replacement of Wallace Adcock Boulevard as the major thoroughfare that will serve it. So I know in the last meeting, and I'd like to just extend my apologies for not being here at the last meeting. I thought it was kind of an open and shut situation because we own all the land, own or control all the land there. And we didn't expect anybody to come out in opposition to it. We've been in the development business a long time, and our policy is always to be good neighbors when we come in to develop. So we knew, that the soccer fields were active, and Bobby Ransdell, who I'm sure most of you or all of you know, owner of that land that we purchased that land from, expressed interest in allowing the people to continue to play soccer, which we agreed to. And we said, as long as we don't have to disturb it or develop it, and it's safe to get in and out of, they can continue to use that land. So we did not expect the people are there and they aren't paying anything for it. We just allow them to use it. So it's by our good grace and giving them permission to go there. So I think Bobby's already had a conversation with them. That's why they're not here tonight, and we're going to continue to allow them to use the property as long as they can reasonably and safely use it. So I just wanted everybody to know that conversation took place. Also, John, the renter of the home, the Phil Stevenson's property that spoke about access, him and I spoke by phone yesterday, actually. Phil Stevenson, the actual owner of that property, and I spoke, and Phil signed off on our ability to go forward with the road foreclosure. So the people who have kind of the by right decision-making have all signed off on it. But we understand there's another layer of the human layer of, if somebody lives in the house and they're renting the house, we're not trying to, make that a uncomfortable situation for him. And so I told him we'll be as cooperative as we can be with access, but just do know that he has access directly off of 401 into his property, independent of our Ideal Lane access. And as I told him on the phone yesterday, while we're going to close Ideal Lane, we're not going to remove the asphalt on it. It's just, we'll have to put, by NCDOT measures, we'll have to put Jersey barriers up to limit access to that, just because it's technically a closed road. But he'll be able to drive through his driveway and drive up and down it, So he was perfectly comfortable with that. He said he would come here tonight and speak, but he gave me permission to let you know that he is okay with and on board with us here. I asked him if it was okay to give his cell phone number out, and he hesitated. So, but if you need to reach him, I'll give it to you.
You don't have to read it on the official thing.
Yeah. So thank you for your time here, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for hearing me out. Okay.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Barta. Anybody else like to speak in favor of the abandonment of public right-of-way resolution? Would anybody like to speak in opposition to the abandonment of public right-of-way resolution? Hearing is now closed. Moving to board discussion. I appreciate the information that was brought here tonight and shared. This is a big project that the town has been working on for quite some time now, for a major commercial retail shopping center to be located here at our town. And so we've heard that from the man that owns all the property or has controlling interest over all the property, and it sounds like I heard concerns that were brought up at last meeting have been addressed and not here tonight. Any further discussion by the board, or what is the action by the board? Not, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the resolution ordering the closure of a portion of Ideal Lane from its dead end at Norfolk Southern Railroad to the right-of-way reserved for the future Wallace Adcock Boulevard as presented and recommended.
We have a motion and
Second.
motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Hurry up, get to work. Our residents are excited for this opportunity, so thank you for coming tonight. Next item is public hearings. Public hearings are a time for the petitioner to present his or her request for the public to give input and voice their favor or opposition to the request. If you wish to speak in favor and are physically in attendance, please step forward to the podium one at a time. Provide your name and address on the registration log at the podium and clearly state your name and address for the public record. We ask all those addressing the town board to please limit your comments to 3 minutes, or that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. Item 7A, first public hearing, voluntary annexation petition. Jessica and Chuan Sun Chow, 1809 NC 42 Highway, Willow Spring, NC ANX 2023-03. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Planning Director Davidson. Pam.
Thank you. I'm submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official records of the town. 1809 NC 42 Highway is a 1.21 acre parcel that is non-contiguous to the town's corporate limits. Town water is available with adequate fire flow and requested as a result of a contaminated well. Sewer is not available. The property owner has submitted an annexation agreement excluding sewer services, as well as an agreement for the emergency provision of water. Trash and recycling services will be provided. As instructed by the board at the April 3rd meeting, the town clerk certified that the petition was sufficient and met the requirements prescribed by the North Carolina general statutes. The present total value of the property is $222,302. The motion tonight is to adopt the annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the town of Fuquay-Varina to include property owned by Jessica and Juan Sun Chu, located at 1809 NC 42 Highway, Willow Springs, North Carolina, PIN number 0677908058, annexation 2023-03, and to approve the declaration of annexation agreement as presented and recommended. I am available for any questions.
Thank you, Director Davidson. The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of voluntary annexation petition?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, board members. I'm Wayne Malden with Malden Watkins Surveying at 139 North Main Street here in Fuquay. We put this rezoning petition together that you have before you tonight. Basically, what we're looking at is a well that has been contaminated by the farm sales that used to be at the Willow Springs Service Center. The chemicals and all in the farm have contaminated the well. It's non-drinkable water at this point, and they're wishing to annex so that they can hook on to the city water. If any of you got any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Appreciate you tonight. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of voluntary annexation petition? Okay. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the voluntary annexation petition? Hearing is now closed. Any discussion by the board? What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of town of Fuquay-Varina to include property owned by Jessica and Quan Sun Chu, located at 1809 North NC 42 Highway, Willow Springs, North Carolina, and to approve the declaration of annexation agreement as presented and recommended.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Welcome to Fuquay-Varina. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. What is the board's pleasure on the items on the consent agenda? Entertain a motion or any items to be removed?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve consent agenda items 8A, 8B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J as presented and recommended.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Maryland, item 8A on here was Fuquay Downtown Association Dinner on Depot, dinner and downtown events, not dinner on Depot, dinner on downtown event. Tickets are on sale, and I think we would expect all the board members to buy tickets and attend, wouldn't we?
We'd love to have them all.
That's right.
In fact, and you better do it pretty fast.
About
if
to
you
sell
want
out.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, might be an opportunity, don't hurry and buy them, be sold out. Okay, next item on our agenda is administrative reports. Item 10A, resolution to issue general obligation bonds. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Finance Director Crabtree. Joanne, good evening.
Good evening. Tonight we are here to talk about the resolution to issue general obligation bonds. They will be issued in two different series. The first being the 2/3 bond, which the board just approved to issue last meeting, or this meeting. $650,000 will be issued as the 2/3 bonds, public building bonds, to assist in the funding of the community center. That'll be your issue A. And then to the 2023 issue B for general obligation public improvement bonds, Although we had 4 different projects, it's all general obligation bonds. The 18.5 million for Parks and Recreation bonds, which is going to be used to assist in funding the Community Center North. 3.65 transportation GO bonds to fund various transportation projects, which is part of the project that just was discussed. 3 million in GO water bonds to fund a portion of the Sanford water capacity expansion. 2 million in sewer GO bonds to fund a portion of the wastewater treatment plant expansion. We had a meeting on April the 4th with the rating agencies by phone call. April the 24th, the week of April 24th, we're expecting to receive ratings. I'm hoping that Moody's will actually call on Friday, so fingers crossed on that one. April the 28th, they will mail the preliminary official statement. May 9th is our plan to sell the bonds and then close on May 31st for the 2/3 bonds and June 1st for all the rest of the bonds. So, resolution to issue general obligation bonds. Management staff recommendation is motion to approve the resolution to issue general obligation bonds for the public improvements and public buildings.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Thank you, Finance.
We got lots of projects.
That we do, and these are projects that are coming up, we want to get done as soon as we can. Any board members have any questions or any questions or concerns? If not, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the resolution to issue general obligation bonds for public improvements and public buildings.
A motion? Second. A motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Other business, manager's report. Manager, do you want to report on?
Yes, sir. A few things to report on to the board, but I'll try to get through them fairly efficiently, given the amount of time we've spent together over the last couple of days. In your agenda items, you do have a quarterly report that I would just draw your attention to, good information on trending that we have going on in our various departments here in the town, some of the metrics that we continue to evaluate and look at to gauge how we're performing. Several concerts coming on the horizon. The Band of Oz will be playing on Thursday, April 20th at 6:30 p.m. At Centennial Park, and then we'll have the Embers playing on Wednesday, April 26th at 6:30 p.m. also at Centennial Park. The Arts Center's got a number of events on the horizon, including the Rodney Marsalis and the Philadelphia Big Brass, which is actually going to be hosted as a location change at the Fuquay-Varina United Methodist Church. We had some competing bookings, and so the United Methodist Church is going to host this event on behalf of the Arts Center, which we're appreciative of their willingness to do so. Coffee with a Cop at the American Legion post on Johnson Pond or off Johnson Pond Road on May 3rd. Just a few other items to share with the board. So as it pertains to our HR department, we are working on setting up new applicant tracking software with anticipation of going live by July 1st. We're advancing the use of technology to improve our efficiencies given the growth that we've experienced and the added work that our HR department is experiencing. We've got 2 new firefighters. They'll be filling vacancies on Monday, John Goodwin and Rodolfo Silva. So we're excited to have them join our team. And we have 4 career ladder promotions from senior firefighter to fire engineer: Thomas Connolly, Bradley Hatcher, Matthew Lee, and Josh Sorrell. I also am pleased to report that the Wake County Fire Commission recently voted to fund bulletproof vest and ballistic helmets for firefighters. As you often know, our firefighters are first responders on the scene, along with police and other emergency personnel. And certainly with the tragic events that happened in the Hedingham neighborhood in Raleigh this year, it only heightened awareness to the fact that firefighters are also potentially in the danger of a stray bullet when they come onto a particular scene. And so this is for the protection of all, and we appreciate the Wake County Fire Commission and Wake County Fire Services for recognizing that and providing the funding for these important safety devices. Our police department recently received 100 helmets, bike helmets, from the Poe Health Center. They received another 100 bike helmets from the Fuquay-Varina Junior Women's Club. And they've also applied for a grant and received another 100 bike helmets. So we have a total of 300 bike helmets that are coming into our community to be given out to children to keep them safe in our community. So this is an excellent program, excellent work on behalf of our police department. We certainly appreciate the partnership that we have with other organizations in our community to help provide these needed helmets. And we're going to have our first bicycle event at the Fuquay-Varina Growers Market on July 8th. So something to look forward to there. Our Art Center received its second Maggie Award from the Best of Maine and Broad for the Best Kids Program or Camp in Southern Wake County. So we're proud of that recognition. Speaking of camps, registration for summer camps is going well in the Art Center. We're almost 75% full with a waiting list for many of our morning camps. And summer class registration is open for after-school art, adult art, preschool art, senior open studio, and almost 200 classes to choose from. So we got a lot of activity, a lot of opportunities going on at our Art Center. Our Parks and Recreation, Cultural Resources Department, summer camp registration opened last week. We got summer camps here, summer camps there, summer camps everywhere. All 288 slots for the 8 weeks of summer camp were filled in less than 1 hour. So high demand. Due to overwhelming demand, registration was limited to town residents only. And so, you know, obviously, we'd love to expand that in the future, but right now that's what we have from a facility standpoint. And the Action Park Tennis Court Replacement Project is complete, and the courts are now open for public use. So a great project that finally checked the box, and the public will get to enjoy those courts for many years to come. I want to commend our Streets Department staff, especially Tracy Stevenson, our director, James Jordan, Jerry Birch, A.J. Smith, Brian Williams, and Kyle Norris for working on Good Friday to respond to the April 7th severe storm event, as well as our police department and fire department staff that were also working that event. On April 7th, the town experienced flash flooding that began in the 7 to 8 a.m. time frame, as you know, and parts of our town received 3 to 4 inches of rain in 1 hour. That's a lot of rain falling out of the sky. Our staff did an admirable job of closing streets and setting up detours to keep the public safe. Most of our flooding occurred at areas that we know to be trouble areas for flooding, trouble spots, and we were able to inspect those areas and quickly reopen roadways that did not suffer damage. One location at NC 55 between South Lakes and John Deere experienced significant undermining, where the water washed out from under the road, but the pavement remained intact. And our streets department staff were able to identify this issue and coordinate with NCDOT, who completed the repairs, allowing the road to reopen just shortly after the lunch hour, around 2 p.m. And so I want to acknowledge Daniel Bulware and his DOT staff for their prompt response. In this particular instance, our partnership with DOT proved to be beneficial. They were out there quickly and got the critical roadway repaired and back open, as well as repairs on Holland Road and Kennebec Road as well. Our entire streets department has remained busy performing post-storm repairs and inspections over this past week. So we appreciate their dedication and vigilance to making sure that our community is safe. Our finance department is preparing, as you know from last night, the recommended budget and putting some additional tweaks on it from our budget workshop from last night. Our finance staff has been busy, as well as management, meeting with the town's financial advisors and credit rating agencies in preparation for issuance of the general obligation bonds that you took action on this evening, and advancing transportation projects. Management and staff expect to receive a credit rating by perhaps the end of this week, but no later than Monday, which will position us to issue bonds to advance these projects. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead of our skis, but in our over 2-hour meeting with Moody's, at the end of it, they at least dangled the carrot with potentially going from AA1, I believe, to AAA. And we're already AAA bond rated with Standard & Poor's. We have been for a number of years. Moody's is oftentimes, for communities our size, a little bit more difficult to advance into that AAA category, but most of our metrics point to AAA. So we'll see what comes about on Friday. If we stay AA1, we still have a great credit rating, and we'll still get great borrowing, especially with our AAA rating with Standard & Poor's. But we're hopeful that we'll see a tick up with Moody's as well. It's only going to be beneficial for the hundreds of millions of dollars of projects we've got coming forward with the town. I would also just remind the board that you should have received a copy of the budget work session materials via email today. Mark sent that via email this afternoon. So please let me or Mark know if you have any questions or concerns so that we can provide a response in a timely manner. And as you were informed last night, I do plan to formally present the manager's recommended budget during the May 1st meeting, and look forward to, again, doing that in a slightly different way this year that will hopefully serve as valuable to the board and to the community as well. And I lastly just want to say that on April 5th, management attended a North Carolina Joint Cybersecurity Task Force exercise at the North Carolina Army Reserve Center in Raleigh. This is also the same location where North Carolina Emergency Management operates from whenever there's a natural disaster or an event. Whenever you see the governor speaking from the podium during a natural disaster or a pandemic, if you will, this is the building in the center that he speaks from, or he or she speaks from. And so we attended this. It was in large part led by the Army Reserve, as well as IT professionals from across the state. And I want to recognize Scott Clark. Scott, our IT director, he has a leadership role in the North Carolina IT strike force. This is the group that is tasked with helping communities and government agencies when they have cybersecurity threats or cybersecurity events actually take place, helping them identify their weak points and recover their data if possible. I have a new appreciation for Scott's knowledge of how all this cybersecurity risk works in the real world. This was pretty interesting to see the Army Reserve run through this exercise, and I can say that high-ranking officials with the Army Reserve think very highly of our IT director. He brings a great deal of value to cybersecurity risk management, and we get a lot of value from that in Fuquay-Varina because he's on the front lines, and whenever these risks and issues arise, Scott's seeing it first, and so he's able to come back and protect our agency in the best way possible. And so I just want to thank Scott for inviting management to come and see that firsthand. It was certainly eye-opening. Patrick Petty, also with our IT department, participated in that event. They had multiple rooms, just to give you a little bit of an idea, multiple rooms where they had the good guys and the bad guys. The bad guys were the Army Reservists who were trying to attack systems that the good guys were trying to protect from their attack. And Patrick was a team leader in one of the good guy groups, if you will, the green group, I think, green or red, I can't remember which color it was, blue maybe. But Patrick was a team leader, and, I was impressed with observing and watching him too. Patrick took demand of his team, and they really worked the problem well, and I think did a fantastic job from the standpoint of gaining additional knowledge that he can add value back to our organization as well. So I wanted to share that with the board. Oftentimes we're here on site, but sometimes we get the opportunity to do some things off site that bring and add value to the organization, and this was certainly one of those. So I wanted to provide that context to the board. With that said, Mr. Mayor and board, I have no additional information to provide to you tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Scott, congratulations. That is pretty neat, being in that kind of room with those kind of people around there and a bunch of Army bad guys trying to attack you and be able to stand up to them. So don't let them recruit you away now. Appreciate you, Scott. That's pretty neat. Congratulations. Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gardner, any comments?
Well, yes, when I came into this room tonight, you could just feel that energy. When we recognize those young people who've been successful in our sports program, it's just so uplifting. I wish we could bottle that energy and spread it around. It was wonderful. The topping off ceremony at Fire Station number 4 was something that has happened since our last board meeting, and it was very exciting. And it was really good to see our late Chief Malden's wife and family there for that event. And we all got to sign a little place on the piece that got put up there for the top. So it was very exciting, and we really look forward to the next event out there because it's going to be something that's really special. That same day, we had several things going on in Fuquay-Varina, but what I was participating in that morning, our Fuquay-Varina Downtown Board, I got to meet with the consultants who are doing our generational downtown plan, and got to do had a little meeting with them, and they were there for our brief meeting, business meeting, and then we met a little bit with them, and they talked a little about their process for what they're doing as they work on our generational plan. And then we walked about for about, we walked a full block all the way around, and they kept comparing notes on how many notes they had taken, because they both got a lot of information for that. But it was really exciting for our downtown board members to be part of that. I want to thank Maureen and the Arts Center for our Downtown Jazz series we had this spring. It was awesome, and I got to go to 2 of them, and they just got better each time. So thank you so much for that. It was a nice addition. And thanks to everybody, all of the staff and everybody who's been working on the budget. That was a long meeting last night, but it could have been so much longer. But there's just been so much good work done on that. And I'm grateful to Parks and Rec, too, for the work that's been done to secure partnerships with Wake County Public Schools for our tennis players to be able to play on those courts when they're free, and also for pushing ahead, moving us up on the maintenance and replacement schedule for Action Park courts as well. We've heard so much this year about the very avid tennis enthusiasts we have, and I'm just proud that we were able to respond in some way until we can do more.
Thank you, Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you.
Commissioner Harris, any comments?
No comments tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Haynes, any comments?
Yes, sir. It's been busy. That's one thing I know. On that same day that we had the topping ceremony, we first started out with, some of us started out with Herbert Akins Middle School, which was a wonderful occasion. Just the diversity in all the different arts that the students presented, from the band, from the chorus, from all different sides, and that was just an amazing event. Also, I do want to thank Streets Department and Management as well. I had seen an issue at Pine Acres due to the storm, and they jumped on it fast and handled that. It was a side on the sidewalk, so I definitely want to thank each and every one of them. My mom was out there taking pictures of all of them and everything, just because she likes taking pictures, and they enjoyed it. So definitely thank them for that. Also, the Growers Market this past Saturday was a great event. Just so many people out there. I think I seen the last numbers was over 1,000 visitors for that day. So that was a great event. A lot of new vendors, which is a good thing, and a lot of new businesses that are being started in Fuquay-Varina, which is nice to see as well. Follow Me to Fuquay concert was slam packed as well. I seen people trying to find a place to put down their chairs, and they were struggling to put down their lawn chairs. So that's a good thing. It shows people want to get out, people are enjoying the music. I've seen so many people enjoying the food. So that was a great thing, and seeing food vendors selling out. So that's even better. Lastly, before I came here today, I attended the Wake County Tobacco-Free Community Forum, which I didn't know I was on the panel, but I found out this morning that I was on the panel, presenting with Wake County Commissioner Vicki Adamson and the Mayor of Morrisville, T.J. Crawley. So we presented, and I want to, they also snuck something else on me. While I was there, I was honored of being the community champion of the year at the event. And I don't take any credit for that because all of us decided to adopt tobacco-free policies in town of Fuquay-Varina, and we were definitely highlighted along with the Fuquay-Varina Coalition. And I actually was presented that award by a Fuquay-Varina high school student, Lucas Searless, who actually presented on the town of Fuquay-Varina and what we did with tobacco-free policy. So hopefully we can have him come do his, I think it was like a 3-minute presentation. Maybe he can come do that to the board to us. So that was, Fuquay was definitely very highlighted and talked about even from the state level, even the state people who were dealing with tobacco-free recognized Fuquay-Varina for their efforts in changing tobacco-free policy. So that was a great event, and it shows the work we're doing as a board to continue to increase our overall health for our community. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Haynes. Mayor Pro Tem Smith, any comments?
I wasn't gonna make any, but I think when the town manager spoke about Scott Clark's leadership in the cyber task force, I think this is just another example of how our town has grown to being one of the bigger towns in North Carolina. And we've watched our staff grow with them. So we got staff that's on the cutting edge. Just tonight, Maureen's group got another award. I mean, we're on the top level now of all these things that we're doing. It's all our staff. I mean, I think of entering into, I don't even have any $1 million worth of water and sewer projects, but that's no small thing. But our town's right there in the middle of stuff like that. Our own Commissioner Harris is a leader in the North Carolina League. Scott's a leader there, our police department's a leader. Susan brings awards back all the time for the way we do things. And I just want to applaud our staff. I mean, our staff that gets out and does the job every day, doing a great job. But the leaders, our department directors, these folks are professionals, and they've risen to the top in North Carolina, I believe. And I think we see it day in and day out by the way our people are honored. And I applaud y'all for everything y'all do. We've got a great staff of department directors. And we saw that in the budget, how well it was put together with vision, but thinking about how we can not get in debt too bad and not have an upside down budget, yet expand like we're expanding. That's a credit to these leaders right here in this room. And I'm so proud to be associated with you guys and the great job y'all do as department directors. I just applaud you. And I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but I just couldn't let it pass that I want to applaud everybody because we got some great leaders in this room. And that's because we've become one of the better towns, one of the bigger towns in North Carolina. And it's a credit to your leadership, Mr. Mayor, this board's leadership, our managers, but I give a lot of credit to these department directors who are making it happen across the town. So thank you for what y'all do. I really appreciate it. That's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Smith. I think those are excellent words, as was shown exactly as you stated last night, with our budget and what's going on with there and their awards that have been continually won by this organization right here. So I know often that this board gets credit for things that happen, but we can't do this stuff without y'all's, without our department heads and our management right here helping us with that. So that's very true, Mayor Pro Tem. The flood was mentioned earlier, which is management and several board members mentioned the flooding that happened there. And I know in some places that was flooding that feels like it hasn't happened in a while. Considered to be 100-year flood events, I think, some areas, and then other areas, people have said it won't rain that hard 5 or 6 years ago in certain areas. But neither here nor there is the time frame that rain fell. And as we're talking about our staff mobilization on taking care of that and getting roads back open and getting people to move around town, being that town hall was closed that day. And I know several departments still work when the town's closed. Just because the town's closed does not mean that everybody does not work in the town as an employee. But all of our resources there that were out there working made a difference that day, because that could easily have been a much bigger mess. And so, Adam, I'm glad you brought that up with staff and the different ones that were involved with that, and that was huge that day, so thank you. This past Sunday, there at Austin Ridge Park, our Parks and Recreation Department partnered with Fuquay-Varina Junior Women's Club and installed a story walk there. And so a story walk is big kind of plastic clay cases on a trail with pictures of a book in each one of them. And so the library, changing the Junior Women's Club and the library and Parks and Rec will maintain them and change out the books each month to a different book. So you walk on a nature trail around the track, you read books, kids' books, different types of books right there. And so it's really a nice story walk. And I think it's one of the first ones, if not the first one, in Wake County. And so Jonathan, thank you, your department and Junior Women's Club for partnering together right there. And it really was a nice event. There was well over 100 people that showed up for that event to see it open that day. And so it really was a nice event right there. So an amenity I think our citizens will enjoy in town too. And it's something that Parks and Rec partnered with them on and provided labor, and Junior Women's Club provide the resources to buy the stuff there. So thank y'all for that too. The growers, we talked about concerts and growers markets, which just this past Thursday's concert was a record turnout. And I know this week, based on weather forecast, Jonathan, it's probably gonna be a record turnout even more. I know you added more food and more vendors and more things there in regards to that. But our growers market, as Brian mentioned earlier, we were there on Saturday, and that the growers market continues to grow to the point that, Brian, I think they're probably about as full as they can be right there, which is good. And there's a crowd pouring into it. And the great thing is, as they pour into it, they turn around and walk downtown and explore our town. And we're down at the Mill Market on Depot Street, and so that makes a difference. And seeing that visibility out there, and beautiful weather helps out too. But those are things that two events that started out being they're very successful from day one from the standpoint of they're well received from the public, but they're smaller, much smaller at the very beginning. They have grown and blossomed and nearly outgrown their venues right there, and so that's great. And so we're really glad about that. And know that everybody's proud of that in regards to that. As mentioned last night about budget, I don't need to go into y'all again about that tonight. So I know y'all been here a late night, but thank you again for your time for that. I do know that there is a closed session tonight. Manager, will you read the statute, please?
Yes, sir. Pursuant to General Statute 143, 318, 11A, 3, attorney-client privilege, A5, A6, personnel, A5, contract negotiation.
Okay. Well, entertain, I can't talk right. Entertain. What am I trying to say? Entertain a motion. Try to make it into one word. Entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let's take a 2-minute recess and then we'll go right into it. Thank you.